Welcome back to The Calling. I'm your host, Connor Coleman, and today we're going to be diving into the subject of financial literacy. Very recently, FINRA put out a study that found that 56% of US adults are financially anxious. I personally believe that this is in large part due to a lack of financial education, so let's talk about it. I think we can all agree on this statement that most people are financially uneducated, financially illiterate. And why is this? I believe it's for two main reasons. Number one is the school system. As a whole, we have a school system, an educational system that does not teach how money works or how to manage money. On the other hand, number two is the financial services industry. As a whole, we have an industry that focuses mainly on the wealthy and the affluent. They're going after people with money. And why is that? Because they get paid on advisory fees, retainer fees. They get paid on assets under management. So of course, from a business sense, they're going to be focused on going after the people who have money. Now, what do we see as a result of this? We see a population that is financially uneducated, but then we also see a mass amount of people that are being left behind financially, just left to figure it out on their own, to go with the flow, to learn from their mistakes, and to really live in survival mode when it comes to their finances. This is why we see between 60 to 70% of Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. Here's what we need to realize about money. First of all, money is a game. We need to know the rules of the game and how to play this game. Money is also a language, and we need to know the words, and we need to know how to speak this language. What I want to do today is give you some absolute must-knows when it comes to the area of money. You're going to have to understand these concepts if you want to have any chance of success in the area of your finances. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything about money, if I could sit with my younger self and teach the younger Connor anything about his finances and what he should do with his money, what he should understand, this is the exact conversation that I would have with my younger self if I had that opportunity. Here's the very first thing I would say. This is the very first financial must know. You have to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. And here's the difference. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Here's some examples. Assets put money into your pocket. What does that look like? Maybe you have some stocks or investments that pay you yields. They pay you dividends. Maybe you have real estate. You have properties somewhere that you're renting out and that's bringing in income for you. Maybe you have a business that's running, that's producing income for you. Those things are assets that you own that bring money into your pocket. Then on the other hand, we have liabilities. Here's some examples of some liabilities. Your house, your car. Assuming that you're not using these things for income, what are they doing? They're draining money out of your pocket. You got to pay the light bill. You got to pay rent. You got to pay gas. You got to pay insurance. These are things that you own that are taking money out of your pocket. Here's also an example of some liabilities are bad habits, bad spending habits, no discipline in the area of money. This is a liability that you should shore up because this is something that will lead to money leaving your pocket. So now that we understand the difference between assets and liabilities, we can understand the next thing I want to cover, which is defining financial freedom. Everyone talks about how they want to be financially free. This is how to win the game of money. This is what financial freedom is when you get yourself to the point where you've acquired enough assets that will, again, pay you income. These assets put money into your pocket. But financial freedom and winning the game of money is when you have enough assets that they pay you and cover your expenses for the rest of your life. That right there is winning the game of money. Here's the next financial must know. You have to understand these three wealth building concepts. This is how you grow your money. The first one is called the Rule of 72 and the compound effect. And what this Rule of 72 states is that the higher rate of return you have on your money, the faster your money will start doubling and therefore compounding. So most of us, or many of us, I'm sure, have our money sitting in a bank somewhere. At the bank, the rate of return on that money is less than 1%. Actually, the average right now, rate of return on a bank checkings account is 0.46%. This is why you log into your account, you see your money at the bank, it's just sitting there. It's not growing and changing and increasing overnight. So there's no growth happening because the return is low. And then what do the banks do with our money? They take our money and they put it into things like investments in the market, into insurance products where they can get a rate of return such as 10, 12, sometimes higher. So what the bank is doing is making money with our money. They're growing it and compounding it. Meanwhile, ours is sitting there earning absolutely nothing. Here's a question, and think about what answer pops into your mind first. What if I said I can either write you a check for $1 million right now, or I'll give you a penny and you can double that penny every day for 30 days? Which one would you take? Maybe you thought right away, like many people do, give me the $1 million. You'll give me $1 million right now? I want that before a penny. However, if you double a penny every day for 30 days, you'll have over $5 million. So this illustrates the power of the compound effect. The second wealth building concept you have to understand is the different ways to invest so that you can get these higher returns. One way you can do this is in what's called fixed accounts. In these accounts, you get a guaranteed rate of return for a certain amount of time. An example of this would be like what the bank offers called a CD. In this account, you can get maybe 5% rate of return guaranteed in exchange for you giving them your money for, say, 2 to 3 years. Another way to invest is in what's called variable accounts. Now, these accounts are the most risky ways to invest. Why? Because you can hit home runs in this account. You can get huge gains in the variable accounts, but what goes up can also come down. You can also strike out big in these accounts. Now, some examples of the variable accounts would be stocks or mutual funds, where you're putting money into something where you're directly investing into the stock market. And a third way that you can invest to get these higher returns is in what's called an indexed strategy. In these indexed accounts, you have both the upside potential and you also have the downside protection. It kind of works if you think like a house that's being built. On the sunny days, the conditions are good, you see people out there working, and then when storms come, the rain falls, the project is just put on pause. Very similar to how these indexed accounts work. When the market's good, times are good, money's going, money's growing. But then it rains, the storm comes, bad economy, market starts going down. It's all right. You lose nothing. No progress is lost. It's just put on pause. And it will start building up again when the times get better. Now, examples of these indexed accounts is many different insurance companies have different types of products that offer strategies with these indexed accounts. Let me be clear here that there's not a right or wrong way to invest. I'm not saying fixed is better than indexed or you should go variable. No, the point being here is you should invest wisely. And how do you invest wisely? You invest according to your own personal goals, personal situation, your own personal objectives. And the third wealth building concept that you have to understand is knowing how your money is being taxed. And what I mean by that is your money is being taxed differently depending on what type of an account it's in. So here's what this means. First, there's accounts that are taxed annually. For example, money in your bank account. Your bank account grows throughout the year and you have to pay taxes on the gains in that account. Or if you're an employee, those taxes get taken out right away out of your paycheck. Then we have what's called tax deferred accounts. Deferred meaning later, tax later. These accounts, an example, may be 401ks, IRAs, traditional retirement accounts, where you get to accumulate your money throughout your working years, but then down the line, when you take your money out and you access it in retirement, that's when you pay your taxes. And finally, we have tax advantaged accounts. Some examples of these would be the Roth accounts or IULs. In these accounts, you're putting money into these accounts that has already been taxed. So with these accounts, you can grow your money and then access your money completely tax-free. I also have to make this very clear. I'm not a tax professional. The point I'm trying to make here is that it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep after taxes. And wealthy people get very, very good at paying less in taxes. But in order to do that, you have to understand how your money is being taxed. The next financial must-know is you have to understand who is stealing your money. This is what I call the 5 thieves of wealth. The first one is inflation. Inflation is the rise in cost of goods and services. We're seeing high inflation right now. Historically, we've seen 2 to 3% inflation, but in the past couple of years, we've seen up to 8% inflation. And you've experienced inflation, certainly, if you've gone to buy groceries or pump your car full of gas recently. Now, how is inflation stealing your wealth? It's because money that's sitting at the bank is not keeping up with inflation. So you're losing what's called purchasing power. If the prices of goods and services is going up, but the value of your dollar is not going up, you're losing your ability to go purchase those goods and services. That's what purchasing power is. So what's the solution? Again, like we talked about, it's to go get higher rates of return on your money so that you can keep up with inflation and then also outpace inflation so that you do not lose your purchasing power. The second thief of wealth is market downturns. Historically, we've seen cycles of these big downturns in the stock market. We've seen it in 2001 with 9/11, 2008 with the real estate crash, 2020 with COVID, and many people out there are predicting another one to come soon. But in these times, what happens is people lose a lot of money. Imagine this for a second. You worked all throughout your working years, and then 2008, you're looking to go retire, you've built up all your money, it's time to retire now, and then overnight, recession hits, and you lose almost half of what you wanted to go retire with. That's a big problem. So what's the solution to these market downturns? Number one is understanding. Understanding when to be in the market and when to get out of the market. Many people make the mistake of buying into the stock market and investing their money when the market is very high. And then a big downturn comes and everyone's afraid and they get into their fear, into their emotions, and they panic sell. So they buy high and sell low. However, wealthy people understand that it's the exact opposite. You buy in when it's low, and then the market comes up, their money gains, and then they sell when it's high. So they buy low and sell high. You also want to understand that there's a time to be risky and a time to be conservative. Maybe you're younger in your working years, you have time to be more risky. You can play the ups and the downs of the market. But maybe you're almost retired, you're 50s, 60s, towards the end of your working years. Maybe at that time you can't afford to be risking your retirement funds, so you move more towards the conservative side. Another idea is also, if it's appropriate, if it's something you qualify for, is taking a look at those indexed accounts, where you can take advantage of these strategies that have the upside potential with the downside protection. The third thief of wealth is taxation. We pay taxes on almost everything. We pay taxes on our income, we pay taxes on our investments, we pay sales tax when we go buy groceries and fill up gas. In some cases, you have to pay taxes to die. There's a death tax. Taxes are always coming for your money. You have to know that. Our own government, our Congressional Budget Office, came out and made this announcement, and this was before the pandemic, and here's what they said, that if Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, if these government programs go unchanged, taxes will have to go up. So what's the solution to taxation? It's to learn how to pay less in taxes over time. Again, I'm not a tax professional, but you can learn about tax advantaged accounts. You can learn how to use insurance as a tool. You can learn the tax advantages in real estate. You can use debt to acquire assets and avoid taxation there. Again, the point is that it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. The fourth thief of wealth is unexpected health issues. Every year, over 6 million Americans are diagnosed with cancer, stroke, heart attack, and good news, 70% of them survive. However, over half of those that survive end up filing bankruptcy in the process trying to pay their medical bills. So the question is, heaven forbid you were to come down with one of those solutions, what's the plan and who's going to pay those medical expenses? The fifth thief of wealth is lack of discipline. We have to understand that we are in a consumer culture that glorifies keeping up with the Joneses. So what we see in the world is people buying things that they can't afford, things that they don't need, to impress people that don't even care about them at the end of the day. So we've been conditioned and we're being influenced to make poor financial choices, to have no savings habits, and to have awful spending habits. So what's the solution here? It is to get disciplined, have financial discipline, have self-control, and make better choices with our money. In closing, here's how you win the game of money. Acquire assets that will pay you income. Make sure your money is outpacing inflation. Manage risk and pay less in taxes. If you don't understand these concepts, then it doesn't matter how much money you make. You will keep finding yourself back at square one in this survival mode with your money. And with everything going on in the world right now, in the economy, and all the changes that we're seeing happening, you have to be financially literate. You have to understand these concepts, or you will be left behind. Even worse, you'll become fully dependent upon the government. And if you do understand these concepts, if you get educated, become financially literate, you'll be able to put an effective plan in place, and you'll be able to make the right decisions that will not just increase your net worth, but will provide you with security and peace of mind in the area of your finances. Real quick, here's two books that have helped me understand these concepts and have a better money mindset over the years. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Now, I encourage you to study these concepts, watch this back over and over until you understand it, and you will win the game of money. We'll see you next time on The Calling. Hey, if you enjoyed today's show, be sure to like, comment, and share, subscribe to the channel, and keep an eye out for our other segment of this show. It's called Truth Understood, where we're going to dive into the Bible, we're going to understand it together, and we're going to see how the scriptures actually apply to today's world.